Hey, what's up? Derek Kirk of Effectatron here, and I am super excited to announce that this video is sponsored.
Let's go.
That's right, I sold out, suckers. I'm going corporate. No, I'm super excited, so I'm happy to work with them and share what they do. It is iRender. It's a render farm. I'll show you a little bit about it later, and is talk about our sponsor, iRender. So basically, iRender, really quick, what they want me to do is to say, I use iRender for my artwork. Ka-ching. Yeah, no, but I honestly did use it for this artwork. And if you're watching my videos and stuff, you know that I'm not going to sell you on something that I don't think is a good product. I do think this is a great product. And for render farms, I've used them in the past as a not doing much freelance work now. I don't use them pretty much at all anymore, but they were always very stressful and confusing, right? You kind of just sent your stuff off into a cloud and then came back and you just hoped everything turned out right. Well, iRender makes sense to me on a much more practical level. Basically, you have like all these different prices and stuff to do. You download the app, super easy to use. You basically load it up, and the easiest way to explain how this works is you add in some money, and then basically you're just renting a machine. Like rather than renting a cloud render thing, you're just going to remote in to a computer that already has Cinema 4D and stuff installed. So all you have to do is sign out of your stuff, sign in. You basically transfer your data onto their server real quick. It doesn't take long. And then basically that allows it to be used on the other computer. So as soon as you connect your machine, which I chose a 24090s, you actually have options for way cooler stuff. I don't know why I did that. It ended up costing me only like $5 to render this thing out. It's pretty, and most of the time I spent was because I forgot my login stuff, so I was troubleshooting that. Basically, the way it works is we come in here, open it up, you see your scene, you go to render, you can double check your render settings, all that stuff, and then hit render and actually watch it render. So it's just like remoting into a computer and then using that to render. So you're just paying to get access to these like 4090 computers with 250 gigabyte RAM and all this stuff. It's beautiful. Watching it render with 24090s over my 3090, it's beautiful. It's so fast, but very, very easy to use. And let me pull up my Discord because I proved to them that I was doing it live. Right, so here's what I did. I said, okay, I'm rendering mine. My 3090, it took 9 minutes and 27 seconds. Okay, I did the exact same settings, saved it out, loaded it onto the iRender, hit render there with the 24090s, and it took, if you can see here, 2 minutes and 12 seconds. Yeah, so I highly recommend iRender. Thanks again for the sponsorship. I legitimately think it's a great program. So let's go ahead and just talk about what we'll be creating today. We're going to be using Kitbash Cargo to create just this really cool scene that you see here. And you might be like, oh, I don't have Kitbash, I can't do this. We're only going to use free assets. If you don't have Kitbash, you need to download it. Guess what? I bought it on Black Friday because I love it. Like for me, Kitbash is like a Lego set. Awesome, cool, let's do this and come back. Okay, this is what it looks like. So for me, it's like a Lego kit, right? Like, do I need it? No. But did I really want it? Yes, because just look at some of these models, man. Like the people that make this stuff, it's insane. It's so good. You can look at these like, and what you don't realize is like there's so much detail in some of these things that you can like zoom in and get really close and do really nice, quick, right focus things. You can choose up to 4K, whatever. Cargo is not my sponsorship. Cargo, if you watch this Kitbash, sponsor me, please. I would love to work with you because I love your product. But let's go ahead and just work with free stuff. So what you're going to do is first you're going to go ahead and go over to Kitbash 3D and just go ahead and click on Cargo, sign in, download Cargo. You do not have to purchase anything for this. You can just download it for free and use the free stuff, okay? And then what we do is we go over here to Models. And inside of the Models tab, basically you open it up and you choose like what software you want to do. With 2024, you may have to actually find the Cinema 4D 2024.exe file, which is very easy to find, and select that. And that way it'll go ahead and put it in there. So the best part about this is it works instantly with Redshift and C4D, and it works very seamlessly. So you'll connect that, and all we need to do is come over here to Models, and we can go up here to Access, and we can right here, we can filter by free. So this is all the free stuff. So beyond all of the models that you actually get all of the materials as well, which is kind of awesome. All right, so models, here we go. Access free. Let's get into it. So the first model we're going to do is we're going to come down here, scroll down to the bottom, and there's just some really cool stuff. But we are going to grab this one right here. Now, the free ones are always those ones that are like, ooh, they just want you. They just make you want more, right? That's kind of how the free stuff works, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go into Cinema 4D. And first things first, let's go ahead and make this 1920 by 1080. So we're a little widescreen. And we're going to go down here to extensions. And down here, they added the Cargo extension. Does it automatically for you. And we want to make sure that we choose the Redshift standard material. That's right. It supports the newest Redshift standard materials, which is fantastic. And then we hit connect. Boop. There we go. And so now what we can do is come in here and grab this road. And we're going to make sure we choose Cinema 4D, not the 2023, whatever version you're on. Just choose that one. And then we're going to go ahead and you can do the PNGs if you want. They look a little crisper. But I always just do the JPEGs for now because the file size is way smaller. So you're going to download that. And once it's downloaded, it'll just download inside of here. And it will say import. And it'll just send it over to Cinema 4D. So while that's thinking about importing that, could not allocate it. That's fine. Sometimes it does that. Just go ahead and retry. It normally works the second time. Let's go ahead and grab this cool like city sidewalk. Do the same thing. We'll do 4K JPEG, download. It's going to download inside of here. And look, we actually see it pop up. It did actually work that time, which is fantastic. City sidewalk, import that. And then lastly, let's go ahead and come up here and grab main op space or a castle. No, we don't need to do medieval. It's so tempting just to mix things up. We're going to either do main op space or there's like a checkpoint. It's just up here. Let me find. Oh, there it is right there. Checkpoint A. Boom. 4K, JPEG, import that as well. Okay, so here's the thing. The only downside to this is it does take a little bit of time to process those textures because we're bringing in a bunch of textures. So come in here, it's going to build all those previews, and then we're going to hit render, and then nothing's going to happen, and it's going to have to process all those textures. Well, that only happens the first time you bring it all in. Once that's in there, it's totally good to go. And that's really the case with anything you bring in. But the fact that we don't have to come in here and really touch anything is fantastic. So we're going to let this load. One thing I want to say while all this is loading is the fact that I'm just super grateful to be sponsored. It feels like I've finally, it's kind of validating. It feels like I've made it as a YouTuber now. If you don't know, with about 20,000 subscribers, thanks to all of you, which is fantastic. If you like my content and want more, click the like, subscribe, ring the bell, all the YouTube stuff. It's a huge motivator for me to continue to be able to providing free training content because YouTube, you know how much 20,000 subscribers and a couple 100,000 views a month gets me from YouTube? About $120 a month. That's it. That's not really that motivating. So sponsorships are where it really comes in. So if anybody wants to sponsor me out there, let me know because I love bringing free content to people. I have paid content where I go deeper into stuff and I add even more detail and I go into the journey with you. We have a private community. We give feedback and stuff. All of that is available in the Mind in Motion and Interactive Cinema 4D and Redshift Workshop. It is launching for real. The beta is wrapping up. These students from the beta are blowing my mind. It's been fantastic to get to know them as well as like see their work and just see that it's like everybody's renders are different and they all have so many. They actually all have enough renders to make a portfolio reel where they have to kind of cut out some renders that they've made to fit it in their reel because it's over 100 project lessons. It is like 80 project renders. So you're going to be making things. Almost all of the project lessons are basically like my YouTube tutorials where I start from scratch, build the product or whatever the file is, and you actually render it out. Like it goes from beginning all the way to end. It's not just like, hey, do this, follow me, and you'll make this. That was fun, right? No, it's built in a way that everybody is able to put their own spin on it and actually apply it to what they want to create. Anyway, the Mind in Motion Workshop. I'm super excited. Be sure to subscribe and stuff and follow me on Instagram and stuff for all of that when that stuff comes out. Man, it's coming soon. For real, the launch, getting the feedback. It's been great. Everybody's been loving it. Super excited. It's the best. It's going to be awesome. I'm super thrilled. Okay, back to this. This seems to be loaded in. So let's go ahead and see. We've got all of our textures here. They're all labeled really nicely. And well, there's a couple here still loading in. There's a couple things we'll go over. There's a few ones that we can do, like if we search in here for the ones that are metal. Most of these metallic ones, we can select all of those. They're all PBR based. So metal, 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 all this stuff that says metallic, metallic, metallic. You don't have to do what I'm doing, but I like to. So we're going to grab all these metal ones, and then we're going to look down and see if there's any more. Metal paint, hold control and click those. And metal galvanized. And then we'll go up to the top, make sure we didn't miss. Trim metal, 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 metal. Okay, so some of these are worn and stuff. So what I like to do with the metal is I actually come in here with the metal as a value, and I like to say like 0.6. And sometimes that makes it a little too shiny, but sometimes it's about right, and it just makes it look a little bit cooler. All right, so if we zoom out here, we've got our previews here, and you can tell we've got this like tough looking military base here. So what we want to do first is we just want to move this checkpoint back a little bit. So we'll rotate around, move it back. And in 2024, of course, everything runs super fast and smooth in here, which is great. We've got our fence thing, which we're just going to pull out of the way here for a minute. And then we've got our road here, which is our best friend. So we're going to pull this up so there's like a little bit of sidewalk right there. And we're just going to let it clip in. We're going to slide it down and then just hold control and copy and paste it over. Yes, it tiles. Yes, it looks kind of silly that it have these U-bends. That's what I'm talking about with the free model. Of course, you want a straight road after that. But you can come in here and edit them or whatever if you want. But we're just going to crop it out. We'll zoom in here and just be like that, and you'll never know, right? Haha. Okay, so I don't know. I might have made that too metallic. We can always change that later. It's pretty cool looking, though. So let's go ahead and create just some very simple stuff like lighting and stuff, just so we can start getting an idea of what this is going to look like. So for first things first, we're going to go ahead and open up a dome light. Ta-da! Big, huge 360 spherical light. And what we're going to do is we're going to type in sky. And if you didn't know, the asset browser has a ton of cool stuff, like a ton of new studios. They add stuff to this all the time. Like, look at all these cool studio HDRIs. So the way this works is if you scroll down here, we have like the preview of the actual image file, which is this top half. And then we have this bottom half of the image. It's actually just a preview of what it looks like on your object. So if you drop it in your scene into a dome light, this is what your object's going to look like lighting wise. So it gives you a really cool preview. It's great that they've added in so many of these. This is fantastic. Okay, but we want skies, right? So we're going to type in sky, or we can just type in HDRI, which is going to be all of those. And here we go. We want a nice overcast sky, like maybe this one right here. This Maxon 01 refund one. We'll download that. We also can look through, but I think that's a good one. What I want to do is you just click and drag that into the texture file right there. Boop. That loads it in. Now we're not going to worry about the image and stuff here because we're not going to see that. We mainly want to just be able to see the clouds and stuff up there. So you kind of want to like make sure you kind of like the way it looks, like so. I don't love these buildings. We're going to cover those up though. So you want to keep that kind of stuff in mind. That's why my favorites are the ones that actually don't have any of this and they just have like blurred backgrounds and stuff like that. So let's go ahead. Yeah, any of them that just have like clouds and no, they're just like blurred out. So they're just sky maps. Those are my favorites. Let's Ooh, overcast. That's the one. Overcast. That looks good. It's got a blurry blue bottom. Why are the things I'm saying sound so weird? We're going to grab that one and pull it in. All right. So, you know, you can get whatever you want out of this. And the main thing we're going to use these for is lighting and colors. So there we go. But that looks nice. Next, we want to do is rotate this around. So our sun is kind of over there. Like we want it to be kind of behind our scene. You can kind of tell, you know, it's very cloudy, obviously, but this part here obviously is the brighter bit, and we want that to kind of backlight our scene because I think it'll look cool. So right now what we can do is just come in here and turn on the Redshift render view, and to speed up our renders really quick for this render view, because we're not too worried about details and stuff right now, we're going to come down here to the progressive passes and turn that down to about 64. And then we're going to go to the denoising and make sure our progressive bucket is down to 1. Okay. And that's just going to make that render faster. Lowering your progressive passes just makes it get done faster. Doesn't mean it's going to look better or anything. It's like putting it on super low and rendering, right? There we go. So we can get an idea of what this is going to look like. I think those metalness values look cool on that. This looks good. Pretty cool. Like, how cool is this that we just dropped this stuff in and it worked pretty much instantly? Awesome. So let's go ahead and go through all of our lights here. And what I want to do is I'm going to grab anything that says emissive. And we're kind of going a little out of order in a wonky way, but this is kind of how I work. I noticed that I don't like the way these top lights and lights look. So I'm going to grab them all and brighten them up. And lamps, here we go. Lamps and anything else that just looks emissive. You can always see it. That's why it's nice to have those previews on. Yeah, I think we're good. So we can come down here into these assets and just crank them up to like 6. And we'll see if that works, how that looks. That looks better. It looks like we changed the color of that a little bit, maybe 8. The main thing we're going for is we want it to be emissive enough that when we come in here to bloom later, that we're not competing with our dome light and stuff like that for brightness, and our emissive channels should be bright enough that it recognizes them first, okay? So here we go. So right off the bat, everything's looking pretty cool. Let's go ahead and fill this out and block this out with a nice mountain. Okay, so to make a mountain, obviously all we need to do is come in here and create a landscape. Very cool. It's very small, so let's go ahead and just add a 0 here, switch this to a 5, and then add a 0 here as well. Boop. Nice big mountain. And we're just going to slide it back here. And we're going to really pull that up. There we go. Remember, it'll be pretty tall. And let's go ahead and stretch it out wide. And we'll just do it like that, like so. Maybe a little taller, yeah. And what we can do is just kind of up the segments. Why not? We can definitely handle it in the scene. And you can start messing with the furrows. We're going to lower the rough furrows a little bit more. We want it to be more of like a hillside than like a jagged mountain. So we'll do more like that. There we go. We're just kind of tweaking around. You can always play around with the scale as well if you like. Something like that. And change the seed if you want to get something that you like a little better. And really, I'm just looking up. I'm just kind of doing some blocking, right? I'm not trying to get it perfect, just something pretty close. And honestly, 0 is the closest thing to what I liked. Yeah. So we'll pull that over a bit. And so what we're going to do is while we're working on kind of boxing out our scene, we're going to go ahead and choose where we want our camera to be. So we're going to, move around here a little bit. And I think something like right here would be pretty cool. Okay. Kind of low to the street, maybe closer to the street. But we'll have this I want to definitely see these cool big lights here from this entrance. And then I want this back here to be a nice cool mountain. So maybe like that. Yeah. So while we're there, we're going to block that in with a nice camera. Maybe we'll change it to 50. Go inside of that and just kind of zoom out a bit more. We don't want the road there, obviously. Something like that. Maybe 35 was better, actually. 35 instead of 36 is my preference. I've never used a 36mm lens in my life. I've used 35 many times. So there we go. We'll do something like that. Having this in the foreground, not an issue. Having the road there, also not an issue. Cool. I like that. This seems like we've got, our eyes are going up here. If you ever want to turn on the display here, inside the display, you can actually turn on a grid. And having 3 cells here, and what I like to do is I like to make these neon green. So we can bring up our rule of thirds here so we kind of can see kind of what the focus of our scene is going to be. And I'm going to kind of see kind of the balance of this. I'm going to kind of slide it over a little bit more. Maybe like so. Yeah, so it feels a little better. All right, cool. So now what we can do is we can come out of our camera by clicking that button here. And one thing we want to do is we want to take our building here, which is our sidewalk, just like this. And we can use the placement tool, and we can just place this right on the edge here, like so. All right, so we've got this about where we want it. Let's go ahead and just get it kind of close, and we're really actually not even going to need to worry about it, because what we want to do is we're going to put it in a cloner and copy it. But when we start copying this, there's just too much there that it looks kind of weird when you copy it. So I would love to copy the telephone poles, but what I've noticed in this free sample is that these telephone poles don't connect anything. So there's just like a telephone pole from here to here, and then there's just another telephone pole from here to here. And at first I like, it's one of those things when you look at it, it's like something AI would do, right? Like you're looking at it, like, yeah, it looks good. Then you look at it a little closer and you're like, wait a minute, those telephone wires aren't connected. Yeah, so there's just like gaps. So we're going to go into here and we're going to grab electrical pole here and delete that. There we go. Solves that issue. Road clothesline, too specific of a thing. Delete that. Spool wheel, we're going to take that, but we're going to pull it out. We'll have a couple of those. We'll place it over here for now. This little electrical box thing, the fuse box, same thing. We're going to pull it out so we don't copy it, but we'll be able to have like a couple of those. Actually, you know what? Delete that one. I don't like that one. But I think the dumpster and the fence looks cool, so we're going to leave that in there. And as far as the sidewalk goes, we can just delete that, honestly, and just let it sit right on the floor. So now we have this, and we can place it again. Now that we have it kind of more together, and it's going to put that with the little trash and stuff on there, just like so. And what we're going to do is put that in a cloner. So we're going to hold Alt, put that in a cloner, swap this from grid, which looks crazy, to linear. And rather than having them float up into space, we actually want them to go along the Z-axis? Nope, the X-axis. I always, I take a guess every time and I never get it right. So X-axis, we'll go ahead and slide it back in negative. And we're just going to offset them so that they line up like so, like that. And we'll just say beep. But make sure we have multi-instance on so it renders a little faster. And we'll go beep, boop, 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 boop. And we'll just, have a bunch of them. So we'll just go to our top view here and just slide that down so it's out of the frame and go back into our camera and make sure that we have that fence go all the way off frame. That looks good. But you can see what I'm talking about with the dumpster. Too many dumpsters, right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to copy this and make a copy of it and then delete the dumpster. And there we go. So now we can go ahead and do the same thing again with another copy. So now we just have two dumpsters versions and versions without the dumpster. We're going to delete the trash out of that one. And we'll take this trash inside of this one maybe. And we'll just move it so it's not in exactly the same place, right? So we can kind of move our trash around. Not too bad. So we've kind of shifted things around a little bit. We'll take our cable roll and we'll get out of our shot here. And let's place it like right here. It's kind of a weird one. We'll put it over here, but maybe they've been doing work on some of the electrics or something here. Whoops. Hold shift and rotate it 90 degrees and place that on the ground like so. Just like that. Well, we'll just do it like that. The cable's like sticking out. I don't like that, so we'll rotate that around so that side of it isn't sticking out. And honestly, I just don't like that trash, so we're just gonna cover it up. Just like that. There we go. So it's here in the frame. We want to make sure we rotate it so that cable's not just like sticking out. I like that better. There we go. Cool. Maybe I could stack them. Let's make another one and just kind of offset it a little bit and rotate it a smidge maybe. That's too much though. Too distracting. Let's make it go off frame. There we go. Just something like that. It's like kind of just too distracting. Just do one. And let's, you know what? Now that I'm looking at it, let's actually just lean it up against the fence. Because it looks weird sitting on the ground there. It doesn't look natural. It's out here with this trash and stuff. Let's like, well, I guess I can just use the place tool. And just kind of place it there. Like at a weird angle. And then we'll rotate it around so it's obvious what it is. But not obvious. It's like staged. There we go. There. Something like that. That looks good. I don't mind that. Okay, so now we've got this gross, weird, fake mountain back here, right? So we come in here and open up our Redshift render view. Let's go ahead and close our material manager. And we're going to go ahead and hit the IPR and grab this little 3 lines up here. And I'm just going to grab them and slide them over here to the left. So we can kind of work on this side by side. There we go. So everything's looking pretty cool, except for, this mess here. This all looks pretty good. Let's add some trees. So where do we get trees from? Well, not free Kitbash, but we don't even have to have Kitbash to have free trees because guess what? They are inside of our asset browser. Let's go ahead and go down here to models and then go down to plants. And inside of the plants folder, there's one called Labwerk. So we're going to open that up. And inside of that, I think that's the company that makes all this stuff. But they have a ton of amazing, cool assets and trees and plants that they've added to Cinema 4D and Redshift over the last year, and they keep adding to them regularly. There's no like, hey, guess what? We have new stuff. There's no announcement or anything, so you just kind of have to check randomly each update. But there's some really, really nice ones, and one of my favorite ones that they've added in recently, the fir trees. So good. So what we're gonna do is grab these fir trees, bring them in, just click and drag, click and drag, click and drag, and we'll do like 3 of them or 4 of them maybe, just so we have some variety here. And let them think. There we go. And they'll download and then load in. Click and drag that one. Make sure we get this first one too. Nope, that's the first one we got. Okay. That's fine. We can have 2 of those. And delete that one. Sorry, add that one in. Okay, young fall. Yeah, look, we have all these trees in here now. Cool. So we have all these trees. Let's go ahead and create a cloner. We actually don't even need to do a matrix scatter because we're not going to do like 10,000 trees, and we can just handle, because they're polys, they're like low poly renders here in the viewport. We can actually just handle, a couple hundred, no problem. So we're going to grab all of these, throw them in our cloner, set our cloner, go in here to the object here, set it to multi-instance, of course, to help with the render times and speed. Basically, you do multi-instance whenever you can, really. It depends, but we're going to go ahead and go to object, and then just grab our landscape and throw it on our landscape. And boop, all our trees are sideways. So we need to come in here to the transform and set this to -90 in the P there. There we go. And that looks gross, right? Doesn't look good. So we want to make sure we don't align the clones, which again makes them sideways because it turns out we didn't need to do that at all. So I want them to actually like poke straight up. Looks good. We need more. 100. Let's do like 300. How's that look? Let it load in. Boop. That's not bad. That's not bad. I think we could do like 350. 350. And that should be good. So now what we want to do is we want to go in here and we go to MoGraph, Effector, and a random effector. Because right now what it looks like is a bunch of 2D cutouts or atlases or billboards, whatever you want to call them, of trees. And so because they all look identical, so we want to add a random effector in here to affect the way these are being distributed. So in order to do that, we make sure our effectors have that random effector. And inside of here, we go to the parameter, and we don't want the position to be affected, really. I think just having them straight down is fine. Well, we could do a little bit. We'll get rid of the Y. We'll do like 5 and 5 on the X and the Z. So they're just a little offset from like a perfect grid. But the main thing here is rotation. And as we rotate these, you can see them rotating. That way, we can just assign a random value from 0 to 2,000 degrees of rotation. So they're not all going to be like exactly the same. Like the silhouette of each of them will be slightly different. And then I also like to add just like a little bit, like a 5 and 5 or so in the B and P. Just gives them a little bit of this, because most trees don't go like boink. They kind of have a little, just gives them a little more dynamicness. And when you offset that with the rotation, what am I doing? Okay, there you go. And then lastly, scale, uniform scale. That way it's all the same size rather than like stretching it out stuff individually. We're going to say like 0.2, which means just a very small amount of variation, but just enough to make it look like we didn't copy and paste the same tree all the way around. If you go all the way up to 1, you're going to get some like huge trees. And I don't hate that. Let's go to like 0.8 maybe. Let's lower it, maybe 0.5. Yeah, so somewhere actually in between. I don't mind having a couple huge trees and some smaller trees. I think that looks good. I'm happy with that. Okay, cool. So we'll save right now before we break everything. So this is like brutal scene, future, forest. Rawr, I don't know. Okay, there we go. Have fun with it. And so then we need to make sure we cover up this crappy white texture that's on there. And we could grab something from Quixel, or the fact that it's going to be so far back, and we're going to add fog. We really don't even need to worry about adding grass or anything on there. So we're going to go ahead and just create a new material. Or look at this fur right here. That looks kind of like ground, right? So let's just make a copy of that. Bring it up here. And what if we put that on our landscape? That might look good. Let's go ahead and hit play on that. See, like our trees disappeared for a second when I just put like this one straight on there. So that's why I ended up making a copy. I think it was a weird glitch, but there we go. Yeah, that looks like ground. Totally fine. Who needs to make a texture? Just grab what you have when you need to, because it's going to be in the background and it's going to have fog on it and depth of field. So it's not going to be that big of an issue. Okay, so everything's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and make our road wet. So in order to make our road wet, basically we're just going to select this object here in our scene. And we're going to go ahead and hit S, which is going to open up wherever it is in our hierarchy over here. So if you have that selected, mouse over here and hit S, it finds that for you. So this is our single lane. And you can tell that this road right here, HGW roads, is this texture here. And the reason we know this is because if you come in here while we have our IPR on, and scroll this over, we actually have the select material tool here. So we can just select and we can say like, what's this material? Click, and it will just tell you. There it is, HGW roads loaded up. If you wanted this material, we would just click that. It'll realize what it is. There's a little delay, but there you go. Metal panel worn green. So cool tool if you didn't know existed. You can just select what things are. But here we go. We know what object this road is. Well, what we're going to do rather than like blend the materials together and stuff is we're actually going to use Redshift's material layering and just straight up throw water on top of it, right? So we're just going to make puddles and then throw it on top. So we're going to grab a new material. If you don't have this little button right here, you can double click in this space to create a new material. And we're just using a Redshift standard material. I show you how to set this up with all of my most commonly used materials and the things plugged in already inside the Mind in Motion workshop in week 2. I think week three. Yeah, we get to materials. Yeah, so anyway, what we need to do is add a max on noise and a ramp. So we're going to hit C and type in max on, right? And that's going to bring up max on noise. And then you do the same thing for the ramp. While you have the max on noise here, what we need to do is solo this. And first things first, we're going to grab this and just throw it on top of this road. So it's going to go on top of all the other materials. So we're actually going to see that weird gray material on top of everything else. Totally fine. Solo the max on noise. That way it's going to apply just that. And because we're in 2024, we'll need to adjust the scale a lot. They changed the scale for whatever reason. But we're going to go in here and we're going to go to FBM. And we're going to try that. We might try turbulence. But we're just looking for some good puddly looks. So we need to go down here to the input and try something like 80. Like pretty big. That's not bad. That's not bad. So we'll do 60. So what I'm looking for is we're going to use a max on noise as the opacity. So we're just going to basically create a bump layer and an opacity layer that are the same thing. So we're just kind of going to have like a little thick, just clear material that we're going to create on top of everything else. So everywhere that's going to be white is going to be a puddle, and everywhere that's going to be black is not going to be a puddle. So we want to make sure we have some white, but right now this looks like our entire road is flooded. We don't want that. So what I do want to do is come down here into my output and just clamp up the low clip a little bit, which is going to make those blacks basically grow, right? So we're going to get more intense blacks. There we go. And come down here and lower the high clip, which is going to bring down some of our whites. So they're, well, actually, we don't want to do that. We do want some of our whites to be pure white. So we're just going to keep bringing up the black. There we go. And if we wanted to, we can change the seed and stuff like that. So if we come in here and we just kind of loop it around, just click around randomly till we get kind of a nice area we want. Right now, this is kind of too big of a puddle. That looks better to me. I don't mind that. And we can, again, scale it down to like 50 just to try to get a little more splashy puddles. That's not bad. That's not bad. We'll go with that for right now. We'll up this like 0.45 just to get a little more gaps here. This is going to be dry road and this is going to be wet road, right? Okay, so we've got that going. We're going to plug that straight into opacity, and we're also going to plug that straight into the bump. And with this bump, we're going to make sure that we set our new range minimum to -1, which is going to make all those black areas suck down. So basically, we should only see the glossy bits on top, which we need to make sure that this is set up to be, we'll do a black material here. And then we'll go to reflection, make sure it's very shiny, almost zero roughness. Up the IOR a little bit, why not? And then increase the transmission all the way up. And so that's going to give us that nice kind of water texture look. There we go. So you can see we just have these nice water petals. We're going to lower our bump down really low, like 0.025. So we don't want it to really look like ripply water or anything. We just want pretty basic standard flat water. There we go. So now we have these nice water puddles all across our scene. Perfect. And all we did was just throw a, basic material on top of it, which is nice. Looks good. And if you ever think, oh, I wish it was more puddly, just clamp back down the low clip, and that's going to bring in more white values, and that's going to give you more wetness. There we go. We could try it without the bump map at all and just see if we like that better. It might be messing with it. Yeah, I think the bump map was kind of messing with it. I think just having it set to the opacities is kind of going to give us that best little bit. Yeah. That looks pretty good. So it's just like still water on top. Yeah. No, that looks good. That'll look really good when we start adding some lights up here and stuff and kind of dim down our background. Cool. So remove the bump. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I'm actually going to go into that highway material as well and just come in here to the highway material and the street material. Actually, let's go into the highway material and we're going to go into the base. The reflection roughness has a map pulled in, right? What I want to do is I'm going to go in here and just up the gamma of this to like 1.5, which is just going to make this a little darker, which is going to just make it look a little wetter. So darker values in the roughness equals shinier, whiter values mean more of a matte finish. So we're going to do the same thing with the sidewalk as well. Reflection roughness, custom gamma 1.5 should make it darker, I believe, right? If I go to like 0.1, it's going to be like white, right? Yeah. I go to like 2. I wish they would update. It doesn't like to update while I'm doing this. Yeah, so we'll just do 1.5. That's cool. All right, so next thing we want to do is save. So we've got our materials looking a little shinier. We could probably do our like metal worn green that we saw earlier. This kind of just this big material and make it just a little shinier. So let's go ahead and grab that one. We'll grab just some of these metallic dark. We don't have to get all of them. We're just going to go for a few of them, not the glass one. And we're just going to go down here and just up the gamma of all of these to like 1.5. Should make them all a little more reflective. Maybe I need to go lower at 0.1. Let's just go crazy. 0.1 definitely makes them rougher. Yeah, so 1.5. Cool, there we go. So now they're just a little more wet looking. All right, now we can finally talk about lighting our scene and adding in that cool haze that really just is gonna make this pop, 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 pop. All right, so save it. What I wanna do is close my material manager here. Scroll this back over so we have kind of a side-by-side-ish working comparison here. All right, so right now we don't have any lights but a dome light, which is never all enough to light a scene, I say. I'm sticking with it. Okay, so what we want to do is add either a big old area light or an infinite light. And we're going to try an infinite light first. Infinite light right here. Now it's important with an infinite light to click here on this little arrow and do target, tag, and null, because it's just a real pain in the butt to get looking the right way. So the way this works basically is, whatever direction it's pointing, which is always going to be along this blue Z axis, it's going to be a light source from forever far away, and it's going to be lighting that up. So we're going to turn off our dome light for now so we can see what our infinite light is doing. And there we go. So if we pull this way, we'll get that light coming in this way. And you can tell it's not really doing a whole lot. So we're definitely going to need to up the intensity of it up. 50 is insane. It's like a nuke just went off, right? So we'll do something around like 5 maybe. That looks pretty cool, but I want it to backlight everything. So we're going to come back here and go to our top view, and we're going to pull it back just so it's over here. It doesn't actually have to be back over here. It can just be like anywhere away from the center point, right? That's how the infinite light works. So if it's here, it's exactly the same as if it's like here. So you can do whatever you want, but let's creep it up above the hillside there and just a bit more like so. Because I really want it to come up over those trees and just shine in. So I want to have that nice, there we go. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's not doing a ton with the GI and stuff, which is fine. We'll fix that later. So here's how we're going to do this. We're going to turn this down to like 2. I know it seems like it's going to be too dark, but basically what's going to happen is once we add in our fog and stuff, stuff's going to get really cool looking. So in order to add in our redshift fog, we go to redshift objects, redshift environment, which is this weird kind of like, I guess it's supposed to be fog and a sun. I don't know. I feel like the logo on that one's interesting. So that's going to just blow it out instantly. Boom. So we're going to come in here to our infinite light, and we're going to go down here to the details tab, and underneath here is the volume contribution. And what we're going to do is we're going to lower this down to like 0.1. All right, there we go. It's still pretty blown out, but we can kind of see some things. Not a problem. We're going to go back into our RS environment and lower this down to like 0.01. And we're just going to baby step this down. There we go. And you can see we have these nice rays coming from the trees. Pretty cool. So maybe 0.005. So split that in half again. There we go. So now you can see if we take this infinite light and, pull it down, we're going to get those like cool God ray beams coming through our trees, which I like. I think that looks really nice. Obviously, the color of this is ugly. What I want to do is, one, I want to take my light source, my infinite light, and just make it ever so slightly orangish yellow, like a tiny %. And that's just going to be kind of like that evening sunish kind of look. Now, we could come in here and do an actual temperature of it and just do like 3,800, somewhere around evening sun time. There we go. But I don't want it to be that intense. So we're going to go like 4,800, or you can use colors, whatever you want. There we go. And so now I'm going to go back into my environment, and this is where things are going to get interesting, right? So I'm going to take my tint and I'm going to make it a little blue. And this is where a lot of people kind of get confused and or stuck with Redshift. So we're going to go kind of a bluish gray, like so, like that. There we go. So we kind of have that bluish color coming in, but nothing crazy. And it looks kind of nice with the color from the sun. Looks good, but we don't really have like that depth that I want. So in order to get that, what you have to use is fog. And in order to activate fog, one, you need to change the color of it. So we're going to make this kind of a tealish purpley blue, something like that, which just doing that does nothing. Because there's not like a fog slider or anything, what happens to add fog is the attenuation. And then the attenuation combined with the anisotropy is what's going to determine how the fog reacts, right? So basically, if we slide this up just a smidge, what's going to happen is it's going to shove fog in our scene like in relationship to the light source, right? So if we crank that up really high, it's going to make that fog super dense near our light source and then less dense near us. And if we go it down lower, obviously it's just going to kind of push it back, right? So right now, we can barely see our building. We can barely see our trees. But if we keep sliding that back, it's going to push our fog back towards our light source, which gives us that nice layer of depth, right? And then there's anisotropy. Normally, I like to try to do just the opposite. So whatever anisotropy is doing, or attenuation is doing, I do the opposite with anisotropy. So if I take this down to like real low, it's going to basically take all the brightness of our light and how it scatters throughout our scene and put it closer to the camera. Whereas if I kind of pump it back to be above 1, it's going to put more of that light scattering back towards the base of the fog. So it's kind of like a scatter control kind of, even though this is scatter. So we can have that initial like a brightness back from there, as well as that fog depth in there. So we can bring this back down, bring this back up, make it more dense, which is going to make it more like we still have that brightness back there from the attenuation. So bring this down. We don't want it to be that crazy. Maybe like this. Bring this down. There we go. So we want like the depth of it. We want it to look kind of foggy and deep, but not crazy. So that's how you get that nice fall off depth look. Cool. And we've got kind of a wet road. I think the road material could use a little tweaking, the one we put over top, the water. Let's go ahead and grab that. Again, isolate this, save. And it's just a little too much. Let's try turbulence real quick. I just want bigger. Yeah, that should work. Bigger gaps. I want it to be obvious that there's like puddles. Yeah, something like that. Maybe all the way up to 0.6. Like this. Yeah, so something like that should work. Unsolo that. So now we should just have some nice puddles on the road. Yeah, and we can actually come in here. And if you don't want it to be like fully transparent, you actually can cheat a little bit. And let's go ahead and select this. Does anybody else have that happen where like sometimes it gets like stuck? We'll do like just a hint of blue in this like that. And bluish purple. And then we'll do like 0.8 for the transmission there. And that's just going to add just a little tint of color to our ground. So it's not completely see-through, but it pretty much is. But we should still get the reflective values. So we can lower that down to 1.4. And that should be like a nice kind of watery look. Let's maybe do like a green. Cool. I like that. Now, if you want this depthy fog to be a little more noisy, what we can do is create another material. That's right. You can just throw materials on a Redshift environment. These, though, are kind of weird, but we're going to do the same thing. We're going to plug this noise into a ramp and alt input. And with this ramp, we're just going to go ahead. Oh, I don't want to double click these things. What is this happening? I've clicked something, caps lock or something. Basically, I just want to clamp these up. We're going to clamp it down because we want them to be either see-through or not. There we go. So now we're going to create this noise. We're going to go with FBM. We're going to scale it up pretty huge, like 120. And pretty much leave it like that. Now, the thing with this is we actually need to just delete everything else except the output. And this plugs straight into volume. Even though it's for an environment, it goes into volume, not environment. It's kind of misleading. So we grab that, and there's no way to preview it until you throw it on there. So throw it on there, and what we're going to see is we should see a little patchiness come in here to play. There won't be a ton because we are using the fog. So basically, this noise that you can kind of see here really is mainly affected inside of the volume scattering and not so much the fog. So it does also overwrite the color. So we need to make sure that with this ramp, rather than just white, we want this to be that cool like grayish blue that we kind of had before. Like that. There we go. And we obviously need to make this bigger because it's not very patchy. So let's go ahead and do like 500. And it should be patchier than what it is. And we'll up this back up to more of a white for now so we can see it. There we go. So you can start to see kind of how those patches are working. Again, it's a 3D noise, so we need to make it pretty big here. 800. We want a good little pockets. There we go. Starting to see it come in. So maybe even 1800. Maybe we go really big. I just want some like haze, big chunky haze like that. So that just adds another layer of fog to it, because fog, is thick, but it's not like perfectly even and thick like a haze, right? So this gives us just a little bit of that noise in. So now we can come in here to this light and just kind of start dialing it down so it's not quite as bright, but we still want to be able to see it a little bit, like so. Cool. So let's say you really like the way this is looking, but you wish you could still see your HDRI map. Well, we actually don't even have our dome light on, so let's turn that on. And that's going to blow everything up, and we're not going to be able to see anything. So what we need to do is go into our dome light, and we want to go to the details panel and take the volume contribution down to like 0.001, like just barely. We just want it to kind of help boost it up just a tiny bit from other angles, like so. And we might just need to come in here to this dome light and actually lower the intensity of it down to like 0.5. I think it's just brightening things up a little too much. It's kind of ruining the mood, you know? There we go. Everything's looking good. Let's go ahead and go to our environment. And one last thing we need to do with our environment is go to the ray contribution scale. And right now, our volume is not affecting the GI, which is going to help a lot. So it does make it take a little longer to render, but increasing that GI just helps that fog actually light scatter and move around and look a little nicer and better. So right now we have this pretty cool vibe going on. We've got the water reflecting in the streets. I think our infinite light maybe just a smidge. No, it's fine. I think what I need to do is actually take my dome light and kind of tint it down to be a little more like blue, like that, like a foggy night. And that should kind of help sell the fog color on some of this stuff. And then we have our watercolor here. Have we screwed up our opacity here altogether? Yeah, we need more white. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our max on noise, plug it back in here to the ramp, plug this into the opacity, and we're just gonna clamp it down so we have like more of that white coming in. Just so it's a little more apparent when we do have the white, that we do have those puddles coming in. That's just gonna help control that. There we go. Now we've got these puddles coming in. That looks much, much better. And we can again just change the seed and stuff and see if we get something we like. And we're just looking for like little gaps where we can see maybe some lights reflecting and stuff that we wouldn't get normally. And that's really just fiddling around with it at that point. But we'll keep going. We're almost to the end. We're just going to add some more lights in here and actually get some nice haze and beams from this. And I mean, this is pretty cool for a completely free scene, right? All right, let's go ahead and open this up. And we're going back to the material. I keep tweaking it a little bit. We're going to go just a little bit more like darker. There we go. And that's good. And make it just a bit more, clamp it up a bit more. Oop, so there's some more white. More water. There we go. Now we got water. Okay, save. Alrighty, just gonna tweak some stuff around to get it a little more shiny. Cool. So now I want to add some light rays, because if you notice, these emissive materials actually don't, affect volume. That's not how that works. So you have to actually add lights in to affect the volume. All right, so in order to do that, what we need to do is create some area lights. So go into our main scene here, middle left click, create an area light. And for right now, I'm going to turn this off because it's just to self-save with render time and performance. There we go. And we've got an area light here. We're going to pull this up and we're going to get out of our camera so we don't mess it up. And we're going to zoom in here like so. And so really, I just want to create these tiny little lights that are going to go right there. So we can actually just use the placement tool and just click on those lights, kind of probably like right there, honestly. So it's like flush with it. Hold shift, rotate it around like so, hit E, pull it up. So it's kind of just like right in front of it. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it to be pretty close like that. And then obviously that's too big, so we slide it down. There we go. So just kind of a nice light. We probably need to rotate it a little bit more like so. And with this, we're going to lower this down to like 20, probably make it just like a smidge yellow. A smidge, that's a technical term. And then the main thing we're going to do is we're going to come down here to the spread and lower that down to like 0.5, which is going to give it kind of that spotlight look. The issue with using a spotlight is obviously it comes from a point, which isn't very helpful when our light is not a point, it's a rectangle. So using the area light allows us to use that. So we've got that there. Let's go ahead and just hold control, copy, drag it over to each of these little lights here. Come on. It did this earlier. When I started to control drag the lights, it got all weird and laggy. But then suddenly it just picked up. So put it where it goes. Do the same thing here. Okay, we've copied all 4 lights across here. Just control, click, and dragging. And what we're going to do is go back into our camera here and just take a look at these and see if we need to make any tweaks. Go back to our camera by clicking this little square. Boom. Not a lot going on there. So let's grab all of our area lights and crank them up to 150. Really jack them up just to make sure that they're actually working right. Okay, they are. That's good. Let's pull them all forward just a bit to make sure they're not being blocked by those little lights in there. That looks good. Let's chop them down so they're even more straightforward. Like that. Good. We'll do like 300 maybe. Just boom. There we go. Now we've got kind of that nice look. So maybe 0.3 for the spread. Yes. Cool, 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 cool. Maybe these need to be kind of blue. No, this should be like orange, right? Kind of contrast the existing fog. Yeah. Yeah, like work light kind of things. Cool. So we'll do that, and then we'll do the same thing back here. So let's go ahead and pause this, kind of speed up some stuff. Go into our view here and just grab this light and just make a copy of it. Control, click, drag. Let go, let it think for whatever reason it's having to do that. All right, we're just gonna go ahead and pick that bad boy and just click to place right back there. Best tool ever made. Let's go ahead and scale this up, and we'll zoom in here so we can see what we're doing. Zoom, 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 and rotate that. Pull that this way like so. Scale it back in and hit E, pull it out. We're just going to try to match the shape of this a little bit so it fits right in there nicely. And then, of course, make a copy of that, slide it over, and do that. There we go. Slide that right over there. And I think those are the only two big lights back there. So let's go ahead and go back here and see what those are. I think we should probably take those two and make the spread a little less sharp. They're probably going to be a little more floaty. Okay, let's hit play on this. Let it update. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, we'll see. We may need to make some tweaks or changes to the dome light or something, but it's looking pretty good. Yeah, those are too intense. These two back here need to be spread out and lowered down to like 150. And they need to be more like a yellow, like a pure yellow. Maybe even just like 80. Yeah, I want that nice, cool, like base of operations glow from that. Yeah. Yes. Cool, this is looking good. Let's go ahead and take our dome light here and just crank it down to 0 just to see just kind of what we got going on. And then come into our environment light, scale that down just to see. I just want to make sure that I'm not blasting things out when I don't need to be. I kind of like the darker contrast look from that. So let's take our dome light, our infinite light here, and just kind of lower it down behind these trees just a bit more to give it some more shadow. Yeah. Maybe not straight behind that one tree. I want a little bit more from several trees. Just looking for that sweet spot. Like that. Yeah. Okay. And then we're going to go into our fog and we're just going to lower this down even more. Should help it just be a smidge darker. I like that. I hate the shadows. So we're going to go to our infinite light. We're going to go to details and we're going to change the softness of these shadows to 10. It's like, I don't like seeing the trees. You wouldn't see those tree shadows like that. We're losing the God rays a little bit. Completely, really. We'll say 5. But we should be getting a nicer looking image. So it's like you get, this is how 3D projects go. You get like 80% of the way done, then you're like, spend more time on the last few settings than ever. Okay. Oops, I zoomed out. If you ever accidentally do move your camera, Control-Shift-Z, okay? Control-Shift-Z is how you fix your camera back, okay? Cool. I like this. I think this looks good. Now let's go ahead and go into our post effects here. And one thing's first, we're going to take our dome light up a bit more, but make it a little darker. Nighttime. That looks cool. Take our environment, make it a little darker. I think we make that brighter, but make our fog darker. There we go. So it's kind of more like this haze. Yeah. I like that. Cool foggy night. Looking good. Nice. Okay, we've got a cool like bunker here and everything's looking good. We're going to save that. We're going to go in here to the post effects right here. Is this little setting right here, this little gear, and we're going to go down here to LUT, turn that on, and we're going to choose filmic contrast high. You can do whatever you want. Filmic medium high contrast, and convert log to log space first. There we go. So this is basically, it's just like a nice S curve. You see, it doesn't really do a ton. We can play around with different LUTs and stuff. We also can come in here to the colors, add a smidge of contrast, which looks nice. Always just a little bitty tiny S curve here on like the actual color data. Always looks good too. And then the coup de grace is always the bloom, boom, and lower that threshold down. And this is where we start running into that balancing act between, you want your lights to obviously bloom first before the entire sky. So how do we get that to happen? Well, we want to go into our emissive materials. We're going to go ahead and save, and we're going to go find all those emissive materials again. Slide this over, and this one, and building graphics, plastics, lamps, and I think highway signs. I don't know if that, possibly. Trash, Atlas hologram, that's probably needs to glow. There we go. And we're going to go down here to the emissive material of all of those and set it to like 20. Just really jack it up and see what happens. Boom. And rendering. There we go. Now those are glowing, which is good. So we can get that nice glow from those pretty quick. Let's get those good reflections there. Street signs as well. Nice. That looks good. And then for our area lights up here, we just want these to be brighter. So we're actually just going to make them visible, which is just going to put them as a white beam here. Boom. And that is going to give us that glow from those as well. So now we have that nice visible glow from those as well as everything else. So now we have this really just cool looking scene. We can really adjust that bloom so we can get our lights and stuff to bloom before we get our environment to bloom, which is cool. Lastly, I like to do a streak. That I think will look best if we just do one streak number. So 1, and then I always like to set it to 0, which is just a horizontal streak. So basically, if we increase the tail of this, it's just like a lens flare. So we can crank that up pretty high, lower the threshold down. So it's just on a few things, like our lights, and then lower the intensity of it down just a smidge. So we have this cool night scene that we've created. Now, I do think it's a little empty right here. Now, if you have Kitbash, you can throw in some cool stuff. All right, so what we can do is, let's just hide this real quick. Boop. And we just have this, and what I'm going to do is just kind of look through Kitbash and see what's there, or maybe just go through the assets. If you have Kitbash, you can, throw in so a car or like a military truck, what I did, or you can go to Embergen and throw in some explosions and stuff. Like they have some VDB files for free. That's what I did in this scene, but basically what we can do is just kind of tweak our camera just a little bit here. So maybe we just need to punch in just a smidge and kind of rotate in and get a little lower to the ground. But I like something like that. Maybe let's check out Kitbash real quick and see if there's anything for free that we want to use super duper quick. You could do a telephone wire in the foreground, maybe, or like something like this. Yeah, maybe just a street light. Let's download that and throw that in, and maybe put that in the foreground to kind of cover up that space because it comes with that little blocker. That might look good. Let's try that. Import. Because the rest of the stuff seems kind of like it doesn't match. We need to make sure, let's go ahead and let me get this imported. All right, there we go. And we're going to use our placement tool and plop it in right here in the front. Like that, yeah. And we'll go to our top view here, zoom in, and we're just going to kind of slide it around near our camera so we can kind of get that, something like that. It's just kind of blocking the way. It's not like hugely in the way. Let's rotate it a bit so it's more like that. We'll grab the street light make it normal. And grab the barricade and maybe move it out in the street a little more. Oops. I apparently rotated it. So maybe we have like a couple barricades up, like in the foreground of it, maybe. Let's see. Lift them up a bit. Does that look cool? Does that look forced? That's not bad to break it up. And we'll copy another one like here and rotate it like it's kind of there to like block people from coming in. Like it used to be operational and they try to stop it. I don't know. You got to make up your own lore. It's all about the lore, right? And we'll just make another one back here. So it's kind of like this weird archway of things, like so. And we'll just make sure that these two here, these two are actually like on the ground instead of floating. And pull them back a smidge like that. So now what's this look like? If you come in here, scale this up. Is that too many? No, that's not too bad. Let's rotate this one a bit more. I think one thing I want to tweak is these, the fences in the way of the path. If you've been watching this the whole time and that's been bugging you, I've noticed it. Okay, I'm going to fix it. Here we go. So let's fix that. We'll go ahead and go into here. And in order to do that, we're just going to grab our cloner, and that's not our tree cloner, but our light pole cloner. We're going to grab our cloner and we're just going to space it out a little bit more, maybe. Actually, let's just lower it down to like that. So it's like right there, right? And then we'll just copy it and slide it over. So we kind of have that nice gap there, and increase the count of that one. There we go. So now we have the gap in between there that makes more sense. Slide it over like there, and take this first one and slide it over to be more, if this is our gate, it would make sense for it to be kind of like right there, right? Kind of like that. Cool. All right, so now let's hit play on this. And I think we've got a pretty cool scene. This should look a little better without those lights right in front. Let's see. Or the fence right in front, I mean. Yes. But the fence here, for whatever reason, to me feels weird. So we're going to pull it back. I feel like it needs to be about right there. Ooh, a little further over, like that. It needs to kind of line up with that, I feel like. Yeah. And then this one needs to be pulled back this way, so it's more in frame in front of this. And yeah, it doesn't need to make sense perfectly because we're just doing a still. So something like that. Yeah. Now, the last thing is the freaking water on the road, right? I just want it to be a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is come in here to our road material here and actually go into our road. We're going to select the road model. We're going to tweak our ground here just a little bit. We're going to make it, we're going to go to our material. We're going to make it just a little metallic, like 0.5. We're going to change this to be more black, like 10%, which should just give us a little more shine. And then we can make our transparency like 0.5%. So it's still going to be watery, more water than it is metal, but we should be more obvious with that nice kind of wet road look. Okay. This has been a long tutorial, but this is the thing. Like, if you like this kind of in-depth stuff, you're going to love the Mind in Motion Workshop, because that's what like all of the projects are. Like, basically you learn all the foundations and you build up and you get to get these cool big projects. That's cool. Okay, final tweaks. Spread this down a bit, spread that up a bit. Bring down the low clip just a smidge more. Well, maybe up more. Okay. That's just going to have to do. It's just going to have to be fine. I think it looks good. We do need to move this street light Make sure we zoom out so we can see the whole frame. This thing here, the street light that we added in at the end, which is what this, yeah. Make sure in object mode, and we're just going to slide that over like so. So it's really here close to off frame, and we're not going to have that hanging wire. That's annoying. There we go. Lastly, we're going to add depth of field to this, just enough so that we can kind of have this cool vibe to it. So we've got our trees back there. We've got this, we've got that. We're going to go to optical and then add depth of field. Let's change it to about 2.4. And go ahead and click the focus, probably somewhere around our road here. We don't want to be super fall offy. We just want the trees to kind of fall off, and we want this to be a little blurry in the foreground as well. We could click, maybe click on the middle gate here. That might be a good spot. Adds a little more blur to the foreground. Yeah, that's not bad. I like that. Let's do like right here. Right on this thing. I think that should be a good spot. That looks good. I'm quite happy with that. Awesome. Let's go ahead and talk about my render settings for this. What I'm going to do is just go to Redshift here. I want to make global illumination, brute force. It looks good. System, I want a 512 because I have 24 VRAM. And we're going to go medium. We're going to make sure we're on bucket quality, denoising. Optics is fine. I think optics handles fog pretty nicely. And that's really it. And we've got ray tracing on. Save it out as a JPEG somewhere for a YouTube thumbnail. And there we go. And we can just go ahead and hit render on that. Boop. All right. So thank you so much for watching. We'll go ahead and take it into Photoshop and do some final touches really quick. Just because why not? We've already got a super long tutorial. We might as well just take it all the way. All right. All right, this only took 1 minute and 53 seconds. I think it looks pretty cool. We don't have any explosions and stuff going on, so we don't have all those extra volumes to render. Looks great. Let's go ahead and open up Photoshop to add the final touches into here. Boom, Photoshop. It's going to be an older version of Photoshop just because I just can't be bothered to update my taskbar. I have it. It's not my taskbar. I can't be bothered with that. Come on. All right, for real, if you're still at this point in the video, thank you. You were a true fan and are a legend. So let's go ahead and just open that file up. That's what I'm trying to say. And we called it what? YouTube thumbnail. Perfect. Bingo, bongo. Whoop. And what I like to do with these is I simply come in here to filter and I go to camera raw filter. And then I come down here to the presets and I look at what the cool ones are. Like normally futuristic or something like that. It's a pretty good one. Or cinematic. So we'll go with futuristic. See what we get. Some cool colors and stuff going on here. Oop, that one. That's it right there. Boom. We can lower it down just a smidge. Come back up to the settings. Clarity. We can crank up a touch like so. Vignette. Just a tiny bit. Grain, definitely add the grain in. There we go. The grain's just going to kind of help sell it off. Yeah, pretty cool. And then curves, of course, everything looks pretty good. I say, okay. Before, after, pretty happy with that. Filter, another one, we can just layer them on there. Why not? We can maybe get one that boosts the colors up just a smidge more. Let's go to like cinematic. Ooh. That's kind of a cool vibe on it. Ooh, man, these are pretty cool. I love doing this. I could flip through these all day. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it on Instagram and put another filter on it. And just really go crazy with the filters. I like that. I like that. Like somewhere in between that. Yep. And then what I want to do is I want to come up here and just not dim my black so much. Like that. Yeah. Cool. That looks good. Okay. Yeah. Nice. And then we just save that out. Export. Quick PNG. And there we go. Thank you for watching. Check out iRender in the link below. It's awesome. If you're ever on a deadline or anything or do animation, definitely worth it. Super cool. And check out Kitbash, link below for that. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and share it. Comment on it. What do you guys want next? Dynamics? Dynamics. You know, I also bought Embergen, so we might get into that. All right. See y'all later.